Right now I'm going to teach you how to use a Biltmore stick. Now the Biltmore stick is a way that we measure a tree in both diameter and in height. One of the big things to remember about the Biltmore stick is it has two sides. You can see here it has a tree scale stick and it has a log scale stick on the back. You only want to use the tree scale stick for our competition. We have use other side written on the backs so you don't forget this. And here's how it works. When you hold it out 25 inches from your eye, you will line up one side with the edge of the tree, and then just by moving your eye, you will measure along these marks how wide the tree is. When you get that will be your diameter. You'll move out, measure the height with what's called a merit hypsometer. And from there, you will determine the volume of timber that you can get out of that tree. Let me break it down a little bit more, and I'll go over here and show you on this telephone pole. So when you're measuring, you want to measure at what they call breast height. Breast height is 4.5 feet above the ground on the uphill side of the tree. I've set up my camera at 25 inches away from the tree, which is the distance you have to be. For me, it's super easy to use a Biltmore stick because whenever I stretch my arm out all the way, the stick is exactly 25 inches from my eye. But I'm going to show you a trick in a few minutes to tell you how to fix that if your arms are shorter than mine. But here's how this works. When you stretch out the stick, you want to line up this end here with the edge of the tree. And then without turning your head, just by moving your eye, you want to come across and find where the tree stops. Now for us, it is a little bit shorter than 10 inches. So this is not even a 10-inch diameter tree. It would not be on the competition because it's not big enough. But this gives you an idea of how to read that stick. You line up the edge over here, and without moving your head, you just turn your eye and find the spot over here where the edge of the tree lines up with the stick. That's where you take your measurement. For our competition, you always round to the closest even number. So if it's 11.1 inches, you round to 12. If it's 10.9 inches, you round down to 10. So you always round to the nearest even number. Next, we want to measure out 66 feet away from the tree. This number is very important. When you choose a path, try to choose one that is as flat and level as you can. We'll start off with our heels against the base of the tree. We will look up, find a point, and we will walk to it. We'll count our pace to 66 feet and then we'll measure from there. Now we're at 66 feet. What we're going to do is we're going to measure from the bottom of the tree all the way to what is called an 8-inch diameter. So you want to be able to estimate when that tree is going to get to 8 inches across. So we hold our stick out in front of us. Make sure it's straight up and down. You want the bottom of your stick lined up about a foot above the ground. And then I want you just to roll your eyeballs up in your head until you see where that tree either forks, gets to an 8-inch diameter, or has a big limb sticking out, or has some other major damage. That's where you would stop measuring. Otherwise, if it's just a straight, tall trunk, you go until you get to about 8 inches at the top, and then you cut it off. When I'm measuring this pole, it cuts me off right there. So that's about 1.5 logs. Now, unlike diameter, when you're measuring the height, you always round down. You never round up on height. So if you got 1.5, you can call it 1.5. But if you've got 1 3/4, you can't call it 2. You have to bring it back down. Now, a couple of years ago, we had some smaller 4-H'ers who weren't quite tall enough and whose arms weren't quite long enough to reach out and have the stick at 25 inches away from their eye. So this is what we did. We got a 6-inch C-clamp, and we clamped our stick in there, and that gave them a whole 6 more inches of distance that they could put on there. Now, they didn't have to use the whole thing. You can hold it down here, you can slide it wherever we need it to get that 25 inches away from your eyeball.
So let's review. When you measure the tree, you'll be doing so at 4.5 feet above the ground on the uphill side of the tree. You want your eyes to be 25 inches from the stick, and you want the stick to be touching the tree and perpendicular to your line of sight. Line up the end of the Biltmore stick to the left edge of the tree and sweep your eyes across the stick to find where the other edge of the tree lines up with the stick. The number on your Biltmore stick will be the diameter of the tree. Now remember to round to the nearest even number. Record this number on your scorecard. We will then pace 66 feet away from the tree. Once again, the Biltmore stick is 25 inches from your eye. Line up the bottom of the stick with a point that is about 1 foot above the ground on the tree. Without moving your head, roll your eyes up until you get to either an 8-inch diameter or a major defect. Using the numbers on the merit hypsometer, you will then determine the number of logs in that tree. For logs, you must always round down. You may never round up like you do with the diameter. Record the number of logs on your scorecard. Now, let's look at the scorecard using our telephone pole as an example. First, we'll record the diameter at breast height. Then, we'll add in the number of logs that we measured. Using the provided table, we will look at the row for 10 inches and move over to the column for 1.5 logs. That number will be your volume. You will record it on your scorecard like this. You will do that for the remaining 4 trees. Once they're all recorded, add up the entire volume column and put it here in the blank labeled Total Plot Volume. Since the total plot is only 1/4 acre and we're looking for the volume per acre, you will multiply that total plot volume by 4. Write your answer in the blank for total volume per acre. This is your final answer and you must circle it. Don't forget. And that's all there is to it. We'll see you at the competition.